Welcome to this short guide on privacy. On both sides of the Atlantic, the English-speaking giants, the United States and United Kingdom, are moving to extend over the rest of the world the data empire of their respective militaries. As a result, what you write on Facebook or tweet or the contents of your medical file can keep you from getting a job or crossing international borders. This guide shows you how to protect your privacy with some easy-to-use tools. Hello, I'm David Shaw, your instructor for this module on privacy. While we knew the risks associated with Facebook, most of us didn't think deeply about our emails, messages, and file transfers. Large companies with resources use VPNs, virtual private networks, but for the rest of us, security and privacy was complicated. New tools are changing this rapidly, so we can be safe. There are many deep privacy tools, but most of them require a strong technical background. Even those mentioned in newspapers are usually hard to install and use. This presentation focuses on things you can do quickly and fairly easily to use the web, transfer files, message, and email securely. This is possible because recently a few easy-to-use tools have emerged, or are just on the horizon, to protect you from massive invasions of privacy and other losses. In a previous module in this series, we covered the threats from organized crime and the network of American and British military spying agencies conducting massive global surveillance. On July 6, 2014, the Washington Post revealed files showing the NSA kept email files described as useless by the analysts but nonetheless retained. These files are shared with border agencies and others and can easily affect your next job application or travel plans, or otherwise leak into your life in uncontrolled ways. For example, innocent comments on Facebook or Twitter could put you on a no-fly list. In many cases, the people doing this undemocratic spying are just plain stupid. In order to find a needle in one haystack, they're going around confiscating all of the haystacks in the world. The result is complete dross, also called false positives. This is what your government wants to know about you. As mentioned earlier, the NSA kept email files described as useless by the analysts. These emails told stories of love and heartbreak, illicit sexual liaisons, mental health crises, political and religious conversions, financial anxieties, and disappointed hopes. According to the Post, the NSA collected medical records sent from one family member to another, resumes from job hunters, and academic transcripts of school children. In one photo, a young girl in religious dress beams at a camera outside a mosque. Scores of pictures show infants and toddlers in bathtubs, on swings, sprawled on their backs and kissed by their mothers. In some photos, men show off their physiques. In others, women model lingerie, leaning suggestively into a webcam. In what altered universe is this stupidity justified? To protect yourself, let's start with general web security. For this, you will need a high-level understanding of HTTPS and two-factor authentication. The foundation of the web is a protocol called HTTP. HTTP, or its secure version, HTTPS, is what you've learned to use when you put a URL, that is a web address, in the bar of your browser. Here's an example. You should be using HTTPS everywhere, although not all sites offer it. For those that don't, you should send them an email and request that they provide HTTPS as a default. Next, when you log onto a site, you enter your user ID. Authentication is proving who you are after you have entered your ID. This can be done using something you know, like a password, or with something you have, like a secure token. Most sites require one-factor authentication with a password. More secure sites protect your information from hacking by requiring two items for two-factor authentication. Let's look at why HTTP is insecure. HTTP is completely insecure. When you open your browser and enter a web address, also called a URL, your web browser connects to the website using HTTP to request the information you want displayed. The web server sends the information to you in the clear, meaning that anyone who taps the line anywhere on the internet can see what you're doing. This includes things like your passwords, credit card, and other banking information. HTTPS is secure. It uses encryption to mask the information sent back and forth between your browser and the website or server. This is not perfect. The information is still insecure on your computer and on the web server unless additional measures are taken, but it is secure in between. One related measure is called perfect forward secrecy. We will discuss that in another module, but for now you should be aware of the term. So now let's move on and look at two-factor authentication using an HTTPS connection. Two-factor authentication simply means that when you log onto a website, you identify yourself with your user ID and then authenticate yourself in two different ways. Usually this is with something you know, your password, and something you have physically, such as a secure token. In this example, we will use a secure token, a code received on your cell phone. This is an independent channel of communications, so a hacker would have to decrypt your user ID and password and intercept your cell phone at the same time. We start with a basic HTTPS scenario that you saw before. All information between the browser and server is encrypted using one-time session keys. To log on to the server, say your banking web page, you enter your user ID and password. You have identified yourself and then authenticated who you are using the password. The password is one factor of authentication. The bank has your phone number on file in your profile. So next, the web server sends a text message consisting of a one-time code to your phone. You take this code and you enter it in the logon screen via your browser. This is the second authentication factor. So as you've seen for safe web browsing, you should be using HTTPS. If you consider yourself to be hardcore, you could use the Tor browser for your web browsing. It's a hardened, security-focused version of Firefox that pushes all of your web traffic through Tor's anonymizing network. Tor is supported by the Electronic Frontier Foundation and other organizations. For the rest of us, I recommend Firefox or Chrome. Not all websites turn on HTTPS by default. You can try manually by editing the URL in the address bar of your browser, but there is an easier way. Install either the Chrome or Firefox browser and then install HTTPS Everywhere, an add-on developed by the Electronic Frontier Foundation. This will force an HTTPS connection if it is available. Next, install Privacy Badger. Privacy Badger blocks spying ads and invisible trackers. It's there to ensure that companies can't track your browsing without your consent. Finally, if you're using Firefox, install NoScript. It allows code found in web pages to execute only from sites you trust. Examples of code are JavaScript, Java, Flash, Silverlight, and other plugins. It also protects against some other vulnerabilities. NoScript has a lot of options, including some that enforce HTTPS. You may find the options intimidating. I found NoScript was too strict and kept interfering with my browsing, so I turned it down a bit. It's up to you how strict you want to be. Now let's turn to secure file transfer. Google Drive and Dropbox don't promise much in the way of privacy. Some secure alternatives are 7-Zip, BitTorrent, OnionShare, SecureDrop, and Strongbox. Also coming soon is Minilock, a browser plugin. If you just want to password protect the odd file, use 7-Zip, an open source tool for encrypting files. The interface is a bit awkward, but there's also a portable version that I carry on a USB stick. I'm a big fan of BitTorrent Sync, also open source. It allows you to share a folder on your computer with one or more people on the internet. The folder replicates on their computer. It works both ways. I used it recently on a project to share documents with someone on another continent. Files synchronize automatically and very quickly. Data transfer is encrypted and peer-to-peer, meaning your files don't get copied to a server somewhere. Now, let's turn to messaging. Adium and Pigeon are the most popular Mac and Windows instant messaging clients that support the encryption protocol OTR. The Tor project is also working to create an instant messaging program based on a program called Thunderbird that is specifically designed to be more secure and anonymous. And Invisible IM is developing an instant messenger and file transfer tool that leaves virtually no evidence of conversations or transfers having occurred. It's designed for whistleblowers and media sources who wish to remain anonymous when communicating with the press or other organizations. Finally, let's look at email security. I've left email to the end because it's the most difficult to use securely. You need to understand the concepts of public key encryption before we look at some software choices. Public key encryption is based on a mathematical concept that we will avoid explaining here. My public key is shown here. It is used to send me encrypted messages. But I also have a private key to decipher messages that I receive. I keep a copy of my keys in an encrypted file with a very long password on an encrypted USB drive. To understand, imagine a mailbox. The idea is that I have a one-way public key that anyone can use to encrypt a mail message that they wish to send me. The public key is one-way because it cannot be used to decrypt the mail message. Only I have a private key that can be used to decipher the message. There are three approaches to secure email. You can use a commercial secure email service, or you can use a webmail plugin, or an email application on your desktop. I'll just discuss the last two. Although most people these days seem to use webmail, encrypting messages with webmail can be tough. Plugins like Mailvelope require you to copy and paste messages into text windows, and then use a program called PGP to scramble and unscramble them. Partly for this reason, I use a mail program called Thunderbird and an encryption plugin called Enigmail that also uses PGP. PGP, by the way, stands for Pretty Good Privacy. My other reason is that unlike most people these days, I'm not a fan of keeping my information in the cloud. Some other webmail programs worth checking out are Penango and MyMailCrypt. For ease of use, especially watch for two new applications in development, Google's End-to-End for Gmail and MailPub. If you want to use Thunderbird and Enigmail, check out the very helpful website at the bottom of the screen. Make sure you do things in this order. Install Thunderbird, install new PG, install Enigmail. If you don't follow this order, Enigmail won't find PGP automatically, and you will have to do the techie work yourself. For the rest of it, check out the website at the bottom of the screen. It takes you through all the steps of creating and testing your key pair. This is the end of this module on using the web safely. There are many tools to help you, but the ones I selected are reasonably easy to use and good enough for most cases. If you have any feedback or questions, please send me an email. Don't be shy.